Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome back to Musical Postcards for Seniors. I am your host, George Scharr, and I'm the music teacher at Falmouth Academy. We are here during this period of distress to bring our students right into your rooms. We have all of these talented students up on the hill, and you are very well locked into your rooms, and I know some of you can get to community spaces, and I know others can't. So we thought, what better way than to brighten your day here on Sunday at 1 o'clock, every Sunday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to bring you a different student. Today's student is exceptional, like they all are. Another student from Martha's Vineyard, and this fellow plays piano. And you're going to hear him play a few different selections today, including Rachmaninoff, Bohemian Rhapsody, and even some Scott Joplin. And on top of that, we're going to get a chance to get to know him and meet him and love him. Please now, let's welcome Matthew Coggins playing Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 2 in C minor. was simply fantastic. My goodness, what a talented young man you are. Now, so Matthew, let's start with you, and then I want to talk about Rachmaninoff, one of my favorite composers. How old are you?
14 years old.
14 years old, but you do have a birthday coming up, right?
Yep.
And I think
in about 2 weeks, May 10th.
May 10th, and you'll be 15. Isn't that fantastic? So you play with a maturity that is beyond your years. How old were you when you started playing?
I was about to turn 5.
So you're exactly 10 years ago. So you've been playing piano for 10 years. That is fantastic. We're going to come back to that. Let's talk a little bit about Rachmaninoff. Sergei Rachmaninoff is one of our favorite composers. I know we've talked a lot about him. He was famous for having very, very long melodies, sometimes 12 measures and 16 measures long, which is really, really unusual. And he was also famous for having a physical attribute relative to his hands. What made him famous?
He had extremely large hands, and he could play notes. He could play chords that had 5 notes and that were up to a 13th apart.
So he did. He had a huge hand, and I noticed that the opening of this piano concerto begins with chords. And do you have big hands as well, Matthew?
I do. I'm only one full step below what he could reach at 12.
So as I recall, he had a stretch of a 13th, which is, for those of us that are non-musicians, every note is 1. So if you start on a C and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, he could hit all 13 notes with one hand. So what he did, and I don't know if you know this, Matthew, but what Rachmaninoff did, Rachmaninoff had a very prestigious career as a concert pianist. And as a result of that, he became a composer. So he wrote music that lent itself very well to his playing. And the opening chords in that piece are a good example. Could you show our audience the chords there, and how many notes are you playing at one time? And by the way, these chords are meant to imitate the sound of the Russian Orthodox Church. Rachmaninoff grew up in the shadow of these great churches that had bells up in the steeples. And you can all picture those, the Russian churches. In fact, I've got an image up here on the screen now where you can see what that Russian church looks like. Would you play the opening for us and let me play a couple of chords and tell me how many notes you're playing?
Absolutely. I think most of the chords have 8 to 9 notes for both hands total.
So 4 or 5 notes per hand. Almost every finger is busy. My goodness.
And they're reaching at least an 11th apart at all times.
Okay. Let's hear a little of that. Now, I happen to know that not all piano players can play all 8 or 9 notes. So, do you know what they do? They arpeggiate the notes, and they spell them out. So instead of hitting them all at once, they arpeggiate the notes. Fascinating stuff. So speaking about melodies, he's had a couple of melodies that have gone pop. They've gone, and one of them you just played. As I heard it, I said, I can't believe it. I'm listening to a song from the 70s. Now, the song was written, or rewritten, if you will, by a composer named Eric Carmen. Now, our audience might not remember Eric Carmen, but in 1975, he took that melody and he turned it into a song called All By Myself. And would you play that melody for us? And then we're going to show you the pop song that he turned it. You know where I mean in that movement you just played?
Yes, of course.
I recognize that. Don't want to be all by myself. That's fabulous. Now, Celine Dion actually made that a hit later on in 2003, and I think that is instantly recognizable to all of us. What many of us don't know is that it came from Rachmaninoff. Fabulous. So let's go back to talk about Matthew Coggins now. So Matthew, you live on the vineyard. You've been playing since the age of 4. What did you learn in your first lesson? You study from Maureen Fisher. We should tell our audience. Maureen is a great piano teacher, classical, jazz, graduate of New England Conservatory, and is very good to us at Falmouth Academy. She comes and plays for us quite a bit, and she's your teacher. What's one of the first things that excited you about the piano?
Well, it's the amount of things that you can do. There's so much creative aspects. There's so many combinations. You can do anything you want. There's no limit.
That's true. All of the notes of music are right on that piano. So I happen to know that there was a particular song that you really liked 10 years ago when you started to play. Could you play a little bit of that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. By my third lesson, I was able to play In the Jungle from The Lion King.
Oh, I love that.
I didn't know the song, but I just really liked it at that moment. I was like putting my head under the piano by the end of the lesson, playing it without looking and stuff. It was amazing.
Play it for our audience. They'll remember The Lion King. Oh my goodness, that's great. So I understand that by the time now you were playing 4 years and you were now at age 8, you heard about something in Boston called streetpianosboston.com. And what they did, folks, at home, this is about 7 years ago. They put pianos out on the street, and they painted them and decorated them. And I'm going to put up a picture here, and you'll see what that looks like. And they just left them on the sidewalk. And they said things like, "Play me, I'm yours. Come and sit down and play." Well, Matthew, at the age of 8, tell us what happened. What did you want? What lit you up about that?
Well, I was just really excited because this would be one of my first opportunities to go to a big city and do one of the things that I love the most. And I was really excited about some songs I wanted to play. I was already learning a Scott Joplin piece called "The Entertainer," and that was, and I also played Billy Joel's Piano Man. That was my favorite song at the time.
Oh my goodness! Piano. So, but I understand from your mother that you were 8 years old and you said, "Ma, I want to go to Boston and I want to play 8 pianos because I'm 8 years old." Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. It was getting rainy.
So you were
to go home.
So you're on the vineyard. So you were determined. You had to get in your car. You had to drive down to the ferry, get on the ferry, come over to Woods Hole, get in another car, and drive to Boston. And something happened to you when you got to the Bourne Bridge. Do you remember?
Yeah, we got a flat tire.
You got a flat tire at the Bourne Bridge, and you called Falmouth Toyota. A plug for Falmouth Toyota. Those folks are great. And it was a holiday, and they came out and fixed your car, right?
Yeah, they did.
They fixed your car, and Mom said, "We are going to Boston because you wanted to play piano." So that was a fateful day because that could be why you're here with us today. So you have another song you'd like to play for us now, and this is by another famous composer, not in Rachmaninoff's time. This is a rather contemporary composer. Do you want to say a little bit about this piece?
It's called The Bohemian Rhapsody by Freddie Mercury. And I really like Freddie Mercury's style. It's very charismatic. It's special. It's unique. Nobody else does it. And I feel like that kind of reflects most of my favorite artist styles.
And I see you have already. I see, and you've only played 2 pieces for us, and you still have some more. I see that you have you're an omnivore of music. You like to devour all different kinds of music, and so Bohemian Rhapsody, of course, was performed by the group Queen. And last year, the movie Bohemian Rhapsody was a big, big hit. Freddie Mercury was the lead singer in the band, and he was also the composer of this piece. He was born in 1946. Unfortunately, he's gone just about 20 years. He died in 1991. Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Coggins, Bohemian Rhapsody. Bravo, Mr. Coggins. I love that. Is that one of your favorite pieces?
It's one of them.
I
have so many favorites.
Now, you have other interests other than just music. What do you do when you're not playing music?
Well, I mean, basketball is a big part of my winter schedule, and baseball in the spring and summer.
So our audience can't tell because you're seated, and of course you're on TV, but you are a tall person. About how tall are you?
6'2" right now.
You're 6'2". Oh my goodness, that's great. So obviously you play basketball. And what position do you play in basketball?
I play mostly power forward. I get switched around in a lot of spots.
Yeah.
Utility.
And do you score a lot of baskets? Are you a good scorer?
Sometimes.
Yeah. How about stealing the ball? Sometimes the big guys are not as fast. I'm a little guy, so I'm a little faster. Are you able to steal the ball?
Yeah, if someone's getting a little edgy.
You got a real long reach, I'm sure. That's great. So, so I'm glad you do that. And what position do you play in baseball?
I'm a pitcher.
Really? No kidding. Good for you. So I guess, again, with a 6'2" frame, you probably have a good fastball. Now, you also play a couple of other instruments in addition to the piano. What other instruments are you dabbling on?
I've tried out the clarinet, and I've also tried out the baritone sax.
And the baritone sax is that big one for our viewers at home. It's really, really big. It's about 4 or 5 feet long, and it plays all of the low notes. And when we play our John Philip Sousa marches, we're going to use you in the clarinet section because John Philip Sousa did a lot with clarinets. Now, what else do you like to do? What are your other hobbies?
I was on a cross-country team for a while, and I like to relax a lot and sleep.
Yep.
Just like most other teams out there.
So you also like to affiliate with your friends, and right now you're kind of in the same boat as our seniors that we're broadcasting to. These poor folks, some of them are in their rooms and they can't even get out to be with their friends. Some of them can get out to be in the community room. It depends. And I want to recognize Laurentide and JML and Atria and the Royal Nursing Homes. I know that you're listening, and I have heard from you. In fact, I got an email just today from one of them saying, Cape Cod Apartments, in fact, Dillingham Place. But today I got an email from Cape Cod Apartments, and they wanted to know who the star was of the show this week. And this is only our third show, so we are thrilled that you are enjoying our students. Now, where was I going with this? Oh, I was talking about friends. So here you are, you can't go out, you stay in. And by the way, we as faculty have been telling you for years, don't spend so much time on Facebook. Don't spend so much time on the computer. How do you socialize?
Well, now that we're all stuck at home, it's mostly calling people, FaceTiming, texting, anything that you can do to get connections.
Exactly. And, we are one for person-to-person conversations. And here we are in a time that's unprecedented in history where we are locked in at stay-at-home. And just the other day, the governor announced that school was going to be closed until the end of the season. So these shows are going to continue, and we hope to continue them again in the fall. So let's see. You once told me as we were getting ready for the show, and you've only been at Falmouth Academy not even a year. You just started in the 9th grade last September. But you once told me that when I asked what lights you up, and you talked about projects and doing projects and how you feel. Would you tell the audience a little bit about that?
Projects are just something that causes me a little bit of struggle, and it's always really, really great when I finally finish something that I've been working on for a long time, or something that I was behind on but I got ahead of. It just makes me feel better.
So when you're done, so you struggle with it, but when you're done with it, you get a feeling of euphoria or a feeling of satisfaction, and it's done. And because you know that that's going to come, and most of us adults have realized that as well, and I certainly fall into that category. And this performance you're doing today certainly falls into that category. You've been playing for 10 years. How long have you been preparing just for this particular performance, would you say? And I know it hasn't been that long because we only asked you a couple of weeks ago, but...
Probably the shorter side of 3 weeks.
Yeah. And how often do you practice a day right now while you're at home?
It really depends. I practice, I think, a little bit less because everybody's in the same house, and there's more dynamics, and my two sisters also play the piano.
That's right.
That also plays a role.
Yep.
I'd say a good hour.
Will one of them come running through the room? Could that happen at any point? Now, while we're talking about your family, you have a kind of famous family here on the Cape Cod. I want to tell our viewers about this. Your parents, your father's name is Bill, and Bill is none other than Bill from Ben and Bill's Chocolate Emporium. Downtown in Falmouth, Ben and Bill's Chocolate. Well, this fellow has chocolate in his veins. Matthew Coggins. Now, you also have 3 stores. There's one in Bar Harbor, Maine, and you have one there on the Vineyard, as I recall, right? Well, I am a great fancier of your chocolates. I love it, and come Christmas time at Falmouth Academy, there's very often a box of chocolates on my desk, and it is just a wonderful treat. Do you eat a lot of chocolate at home?
I eat anything I can. But especially chocolate.
That's true. You're a 15-year-old, almost 15-year-old teenager, and you're a man, so a young man, so you eat a lot of food. I'd like to talk a little bit about your commute from the Vineyard to school. I understand that there are 37 students that come from Martha's Vineyard to Falmouth Academy every day. What's that like for you?
Well, it's kind of peaceful. It's it sets you up. It gets you in the right mindset for the day. It's a good routine to have. Gets you up nice and early, and it's a good time where you can talk with friends. You can make anything that's unclear, like homework assignments from the day before. You can straighten that all up really fast. It's a good in between from school and home. Interesting.
It's a transition time. I never thought of that before. But you take the 7:00 boat from Vineyard Haven, because we send a bus down at 7:45 to pick you up. So you get that 45 minutes as a transition time to gear up for school, and then you get the bus ride to school, which you don't do much on. That's only about 10 minutes. And then I understand you take the 5:00 boat to come home, I think, yes. Right? So yes. Then does Mom and Dad pick you up, or do you walk home? I know you live in Vineyard Haven.
They usually pick me up.
Yep. So you get home at 5:45 and you go home, and then by then hopefully most of your homework is done. There we go. There's one of those family friends. You have a dog, I guess, huh?
I have a dog and a cat. That's Grady just now.
Well, we really are working from home. Well, This has been a wonderful get-to-know-you session, Matthew. You are just a talented, charming young man, and I look forward to working with you for many more years to come and many more TV shows. But you have another song that you're going to leave us with, and we're going to sign off with this song. I want to tell our audience a little bit about this. This song is by Scott Joplin. And of course, Scott Joplin, we all know him for writing The Entertainer, and I think you heard Matthew allude to this earlier. The Entertainer was one of the first songs you learned. Was it early on?
It was pretty early on. I remember being interested. It wasn't my teacher who wanted to teach me. I found it myself. I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. I love it. And it sparked my interest in ragtime.
Yeah, you definitely like The Entertainer. Many of us know as the theme song from the 1973 movie The Sting. Would you play just a couple of bars of The Entertainer for us so we can get that melody in our head?
Sure.
Nice, perfect. But Scott Joplin now. Scott Joplin from Texarkana, Texas, born in 1868. And died in what now is a famous year for this show, 1917. Scott Joplin, of course, one of his most famous numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Matthew Coggins from Martha's Vineyard playing the Maple Leaf Rag. And we will see you next week, folks, 1 o'clock Sunday. Look for our broadcasts on YouTube, Facebook, and Vimeo, as well as your local cable outlet. Matthew Coggins.